All right, good morning. I am super pumped. This is our very first show, and I wish I could tell you what the name of it was, but we have not named it yet. So we're just going to call it the Joe Mullings Experience. No, that's Joe Rogan. I can't do that. So just Joe Mullings Show for now. But I've been having a lot of conversations with CEOs, venture capitalists, even people within my industry, the search industry, and I'm going to name this episode "Now That You're Awake," and I'm calling it that because the world is changing when it comes to talent, and the emerging world requires more of a talent access mindset than it does a talent acquisition mindset, and I'll go into details with that in a little bit. But today we're going to talk about a talent access mindset. We're going to discuss marketing as a sales function, and how your marketing really is top of the funnel on sales function. And then finally, the construct of a talent access firm. And when I use the word talent access firm today, it's going to be more so of whether it's your HR department in a large or small corporation, whether you're an entrepreneur who's running your talent access, again, not your acquisition, and what you need to think about and how you need to position yourself for the emerging market. Because we are in a two-way market right now. Historically, talent has been a talent acquisition. The company stood in the demand spot, and oftentimes the individuals had to bow to the companies. Some of you still may feel that way, and I'll tell you why you feel that way. You feel that way because of a dysfunctional hiring process. So these organizations really want you. Trust me, they want to hire you. But they are so effed up in their process that it feels like they don't. And so those are the conversations that will be coming up in this show and future shows. Look, we're living in a time of accelerated technology. The specifications of the workforce are changing dramatically, and it's created this demand for talent that we've never had before, and it's going to continue. So you want to ask yourself, how am I going to develop my firm or develop my talent access part of my organization? And you'll notice so far I've avoided from using the word human resources, because human resources is not even close to the same function as talent access. One is very much so an outbound activity, meaning talent access, and HR is taking care of and coveting and growing those within your organizations. So when you get these markets, technologies, and the construct of the entire world shifting right now, modes of communication, access to data, all of that, Icky, thanks for turning that down. It sounds much better. All of that, you start to have an emerging world. So when you have that world changing, and most firms have not changed at all, that's where you're going to get the dissonance in the industry that we're in right now. So search firms, I'm going to talk to you first. I need to have you start to not be defined by what you make, meaning placements, but be defined by what you do. Stop making placements and start thinking about creating your firm about having access to talent. And it's the same thing in a big corporation. Stop thinking about making the hire as your focus. Instead, start thinking about how do you create your organization to have the most access to talent in the marketplace today. So that's a transition from a transactional mindset to an advisory mindset if you're in a search firm. Stop being a matchmaker and start to become that provider to access to talent in the marketplace. If you are running the talent access function in your organization, start thinking about how you can create more access to your organization from the talent out in the market. And you see how that shift occurs? You no longer are talent acquisition. Think about how that sounds. You're acquiring talent. That is not where the environment is today. So we are in the talent access business. It's a two-way street. We're trying to create access from talent to see my company and see what my company's doing, and it's no longer acquiring that talent. So let's look at some numbers here, because the landscape is changing. It's changing from being primarily a full-time employee marketplace to what I call an interim marketplace. Some will call it contractors, some will call it temp, but what I'm doing is I'm calling it interim because oftentimes the interim relationship is one of which either the market's changing or you have a very specific function in your organization that you're trying to accomplish, and there is an interim solution there. And that doesn't mean any less than a full-time employee. It just means you've chosen to solve that specific moment in time with an interim solution. We've got 160 million people in the United States who are working. 65% of those people have a full-time job. The balance of those have a job that's either contract or interim. In the full-time workforce, the average stay in those organizations is about 4 years, and it's dropping. It's actually moved down to 3.2 years in the last 2 years. The average contract or interim employee is at 2 years and climbing. So think about that for a moment as you're looking, again, if you're a search firm or you're an organization looking for talent. You've got the large part of the market, granted, but that's starting to have a descending relationship to it based upon the economy and the acceleration of technology. On the interim side, on the contract side, you've got that growing almost by 30 to 40% over the last 2 years. That's increasing. So a third of that market. We're becoming more of a borderless world. There's more virtual companies. There's organizations that are trying to do more with less. The rate of acceleration of technology requires very unique skill sets. We've moved into a specialized world. Just think about how much everything in your life has become specialized. I don't care if it is the golf club that you swing out of the 14 clubs in your bag. There's a 58, a 56 degree, a 60 degree, a 62 degree wedge. Everything is becoming specialized. So is the workforce. Generalists right now are not as in high demand. If you're doing any hiring on the technical side, it's always looking for specialization. So access to those specialized skill sets and then only relegating yourself to full-time work, you're really limiting yourself to access to that talent in the marketplace. And then just to do the economics. There makes a lot of sense sometimes in these emerging tech companies to not have to take the load of anywhere from 20 to upwards of 30% of gross salary on the overhead of benefits, taxes, 401k, healthcare benefits, all of those, work those in backwards. So what you want to do is as you're looking at your talent access solutions, you want to own both markets. You want to own certainly the large part of the market that is declining, and you also want to get into the smaller part of the market that is growing. And it's not like there's an order of magnitude difference between the two of them. I'm talking about 65-35, and we're starting to converge. So here's what you want to ask yourself in your search firm, in your talent access mindset is, why do people use us? Why do your customers within J&J use your talent access team? And then what services am I providing to them? So again, I'm talking to inside the big corporation. Why do they come down the hallway, stop in my office to use me? And then I'm talking about the search firm, the current day search firm. Why do you get the outbound call for repeat business? Why do they come to you? What do you provide? And if you're not providing both of those solutions in your portfolio, you're leaving yourself exposed to a number of things. One is that customer is going to look for somebody else to fill with an interim role or even educate them because they might not even be aware they should have an interim solution. And again, in a startup, think about this, CFOs, in the medtech world, regulatory, quality systems. Those are functions that you need a $300,000 to $400,000 a year person pulling the trigger because they are the life's blood. But do you really want to pay for them 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months out of the year? You might not need them that much, but you're going to need that expertise. Why would you not look at potentially tapping into that fantastic workforce that's getting screwed right now? A little bit of a social side of this. You're 45 to 50 years old, you get popped, you go to look for a new job, you got troubles. There's ageism out there. There is discrimination. This is not about that today, but I'm telling you that if you create a workflow in your search firm or in your full large organization to harness those individuals who have 20, 30 years experience that you need, and they are now part of that interim workforce, I believe you can solve problems and offer solutions to clients that they have not even been aware of or had a solution provided to them. So that leaves you in a couple things. It leaves you, are you going to be caught reacting to the emerging market, or will you lead the way? I'm going to kill a bug here on my microphone. Watch this. It's on my face now. It's awesome. Or are you going to lead the way and predict and drive where things are going, right? Because you don't want to be one of those historical misses. There are those who had a chance to predict the future over the last 10, 15 years. Remember all those train wrecks, the historical misses, right? Blockbuster, fixated on video rental and brick and mortar when it was really in the business of providing entertainment to people. Kodak, fixated on the film business when they were really in the imaging business, and Apple took that away from them. By the way, did you know that Kodak owned all of the discovery and patents in early digital imaging? And they never believed in it because they tied their business to the film analog business and all the chemicals and equipment that made with processing film. And they eventually declared bankruptcy after their patents ran out that Apple and Samsung and all the others used to use. That's a historical miss. How about the music business that was in the business of thinking they were selling albums, wax and vinyl, when really they were in the business of sharing songs? And then Motorola, the Razr, the flip phone, they were really in the connectivity business, just like BlackBerry. They made the mistake of thinking they were in the phone business, but they were in the connectivity business. So you see where it's all leading? Technology, social behavior, reduction of friction, speed and convenience all need to be catered to, whether you're a big organization and your customer is internal down the hallway, or if you're a search firm who's deciding, am I going to be in this business for another 3 years? I'll probably make it to retirement. Or do I plan on not just surviving, but really dominating the marketplace over the next few years? So your goal is to create such tremendous value in the marketplace with educating the marketplace as to where it's going right now. And there's all kinds of evidence, empirical evidence pointing to that. Create that value by educating the marketplace, educating your hiring managers, educating your customers as to where it's going. And then what you do is you follow through and you capture that with the services that you put in place. Too many of you want to put the services in place first and try and define the problem later. Instead, what you want to do is come up with what the problem is, not what you're hallucinating, but pointing to what the problem is. The problem was sharing songs, not making albums. The problem was figuring out how to create connectivity with people, not a flip phone. There was no problem with the flip phone. The problem was scaling that out on connectivity. So you see the new POV, the new point of view? So that's how that landscape is changing. Now let's talk about how do we convey that to the masses. And this part's a little bit more towards my search firms and my search friends. Too many times at the beginning of the year, whenever you're going through numbers, especially in the search organization, the first thing that the owner does or your manager does is they come to you and they say, how much money do you want to make next year? And invariably, they ask you what your plan is to make that. And what you immediately do is you start doing math. You try and figure out, well, last year, let's see, I made 42 placements. That means I had 192 finals. I had 740 send-outs, and I wrote 192 job orders with a client. And you start dividing that by the number of months, weeks, and days in the year, and then you figure out what your daily production needs to be. See how you do math? And that's what we rewarded as owners, right? We rewarded math. So you've got to evaluate your reward system because rewards drive behavior. So to my search owners out there right now, and even to my talent access people in corporate, I'm curious. Is your compensation plan and bonuses tied to metrics like posting on social platforms? Does it reward engagement on the content you put out? Are one of your KPIs the number of followers that you picked up who digest the messaging you put out every day? That's an interesting thought to consider, isn't it? Because if you think about it, sales is, in my opinion, especially in our business, a trailing indicator of how good a job you do in marketing. If you're doing analog marketing, like back of the cover, inside the cover advertising, because that's your go-to move, because that's what was handed down to you over the years, and nobody ever got in trouble for putting an advertisement on the inside of a rag magazine in the med tech industry or any industry that you're in, because your boss did that, you didn't get in trouble for that. How about the largest platform in the world? And again, I never want to come across as a shill for LinkedIn. So right now, LinkedIn happens to be the best social platform, by the way, for free in the world, where there's 660 million users. And at least 50% of those are pretty active. And your definition of active could be weekly. My definition is 5 times a day, but that's a whole nother medication question that I've got to work through. But in that 660 million people, how many of those people are in your market? And how and what are you communicating to them at scale every day? You've been using an analog function to communicate with people when digitally sitting in front of you is the ability, as long as you put out clever, valuable content that educates and doesn't sell, you can reach people at scale, tens, thousands, even hundreds of thousands like we do. But what you've done is you've massively disrespected that platform, because social platforms were ruined by your niece who looked like a moron doing duck lips into a selfie, and to your grandmother who put cat videos online, but you automatically have Instagram and Facebook in the same category as LinkedIn, and you're making a mistake. So you don't use it, and you probably don't understand it. And you know what? The customer does not care if you don't like social or you have not chosen how to use it. They are going to be attracted to the people who do. And don't make the mistake of blaming the tool. I say it often. A basketball in LeBron's hands has a much different ROI than in my hands. Same tool, different use. When you get on those platforms, what do you want to do? You want to create an inbound business, and that takes place by educating the market at scale, creating value. You want to be a media company that happens to be in the talent access world. You want to inform and inspire. And then you want to have patience and timelines. An inbound business closes at a much higher rate than an outbound business. And when I talk about inbound business, and I'm chatting now directly to my friends in the search business, that doesn't mean repeat business on people who are going to call you anyway. That's not inbound business. That's repeat business. That's different. The inbound business I'm talking about is the people who've never heard of you before because they've never done business with you before, but they become aware of you on the LinkedIn platform or the appropriate platform. It could be Instagram potentially and Facebook on direct-to-consumer. But they discovered you and watched you and followed you because you put out intelligent data. And then they lean in. And those are the people you never knew before. That is inbound business. And that business closes at about a 4 to 5x, depending on who you ask, rate than outbound business. Awareness and attention create that inbound business. You've got to create that awareness and attention. Please understand, I am not saying do not do outbound business. What I'm saying is that a very well-run awareness attention model applied to an outbound business tremendously magnifies and increases its efficiencies. Okay? So now what I've done is I've just added another category to my business. I've got my inbound business that is not repeat business, and then I've tremendously enhanced my outbound activities because of my awareness attention model. So your legacy mindset has you thinking that you've got to make more phone calls or you got to make more in-person calls. Your legacy mindset has you thinking that you've got to be posting more job orders online. Your legacy mindset has you think that you've got to hire more people to make more calls, to put job postings online. Look, throwing more bad decisions or a dated or absent approach to a problem is just grabbing a bigger hammer and slamming at that problem. It's not the way to go. You need 3 things to dominate in our business and the talent access. You need the ability to communicate. You have to have a great product or service, and then you have to work incredibly hard. Too many people think that they're going to work less when they start to create an inbound business, or they start to do awareness intention. I will tell you, over the last 4 years, I have never worked harder than in my previous 26 years. It's a different work, though. And the ROI, I have a friend in the studio today, swing the camera over him from the shoot later, Frank Dolan, who's down from Boston with Arsenal. Great organization. Look him up. We were talking about it earlier, and he was standing outside the camera room behind me, and he's talking about buying his own gear. And he said, monetizing this, Joe? I said, Frank, if you're going to buy a camera and you're going to get in this business, monetization or ROI will drive you crazy if you make it the bottom denominator in how you evaluate this. If you're going to try and look at ROI within a 3, 6, 9, or even 12-month period, don't get into the business, meaning media. If you want to start looking at it on a 2-year horizon, you'll feel a little bit better about it. But here's what happens, and I think we're on camera, right? When you start the business, it's going to go like this, and your spend is going to go like this. Actually, your spend's going to go up. But your ROI is at best just nothing. But then what happens after year 1, this starts to happen. And you start to get this slope, this rate of acceleration of inbound business and higher efficiencies on your outbound business that you never thought would ever happen because you were worried about the short term. But then what happens after that is even more amazing, is it goes like this, and then you dislocate from the model. You no longer are even in the same category as your competitors. You actually dislocate from the existing model and you create a brand new model. So as you look at the ROI on these activities, whether you're a corporate organization or whether you're a search firm, your ROI is going to take you 1 to 2 years. But once you dislocate, your competitors will not be able to catch you unless they take the same approach. And most won't have the courage, intelligence, staying power, perseverance, and maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should get a partner who does that as a core competency. And you will see organizations start popping up that will do that for you. Not PR firms, but firms that will develop your branding for you. And if you're going to go out and hire one of them, make sure they're in your industry. And I'm not going to get sidebarred on that. But you understand by what I mean on the ROI, the long wait, then the slope up, then the dislocation, then a new category occurs. Remember I talked about the misses earlier in the podcast? Those were dislocations. They were not in the same market. Your awareness and attention model lets people know you exist. Whether you're in financing, whether you're looking for talent, whether you're looking for consultants, whether you're looking for M&A work, people don't know you're there. Your product and your service does not exist. It should be a core competency like your finance is, like your facilities is, like your legal is. If you don't have an awareness attention owner in your organization, I'm going to say in 5 years from now, you are going to have one, or you're probably not going to be in the business that you're in today. You need to look at your awareness attention, your marketing, your reputation, all the same thing as a core competency in order for you to excel and dominate the market you're in. And here's the good news. You're not alone right now. I would say 99.99999% of the people in the industry today have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. They'll nod their head and say it makes sense, but they will not execute on it. Leadership probably won't execute on it because it's not in their playbook. They're trying the best that they can, but they're trying the best that they can with a lousy model that's a legacy model. But they are trying the best that they can. But that legacy model is going to come at the expense of all the employees that are part of your organization. Whether you're a large medical device company or you're a small emerging tech company or you're a search firm. Everybody's facing this. My job is to be standing at the top of the mountaintop because I have one foot in legacy search and I have the other foot in the emerging modalities of what talent access should look like. I've been fortunate enough over 3 decades to be part of an organization that's been best in the business in the legacy conventional way. So I feel responsible, honored, and compelled to keep still one foot in legacy search and the other one in that dislocated model I've just shared with you, because I want to drag as many of you over as possible. There will come a time that I'm going to have to take that other foot out of there. But I'm going to rant, rave, share to every single person that's going to listen in a large $30 billion corporate organization, down to a mom and pop dry cleaner down the block, down to a 3-person search firm, and explain to you that you have moved into the talent access world. Our legacy search firms will definitely lead the way. The progressives will have a foot in both camps. Corporations will not be able to transition as fast as we can if you're in the search business. There's your arbitrage opportunity. But your arbitrage opportunity can't be for money. Your arbitrage opportunity has to be for the good of the industry and the good of the people who need the access to the opportunities. If you're going to play the arbitrage for the money, it's going to smell and the industry's going to see it. But if you play the arbitrage for the good of the people and the good of the industry that you're in, you'll be in a much better spot. So that's my sermon for today. Talent access versus talent acquisition. Stop selling. And then go to your leadership and ask them what the hell they're doing and how come they don't see things the way that Mad Joe Mullings does. Have a good day.